All right, what's up, YouTube? This is BoxingWave. Good morning. This is going to be a spoiler review. Spoiler review. So I'm telling all in this video. So if you haven't seen the film yet, just back out. It's Saturday morning. Actually seen the film yesterday morning, early Friday morning, like 8 in the morning. It was so hard to get tickets for this thing. So if you haven't seen the film, please exit out because I'm going to give a lot up in this video, okay? I don't make many movie reviews, but normally if I do, it's comic book related. Okay, this movie was too big of a film for me to just not do a video. All right, I've done videos on in the past on comic books. I've given rankings in the past. Off the bat, off the rip, I'm just gonna tell you that this film, Endgame, is probably one of my top 10 favorite films. But I didn't leave that theater thinking that instantly that was like a top five favorite all time. There's a lot of great comic book based films now at this point. There's so many of them. And to say that it's a top, even saying top 10 is very, very hard at this point. Because I've, like in other videos, I I brought in a lot of older comic book films, that I thought were my favorite. Like at the time, Michael Keaton, Jack Nicholson, the first Batman film was one of my favorites. Um, Dark Knight, it was one of my favorites. Infinity War, right there. Like I left that theater thinking that this might be my number one. Um, you know, the Winter Soldier was one of my favorites instantly. These are movies that I would probably, maybe not the first Batman film, but maybe even, I would one day I might actually do a video on my top 10 or even top 20 comic book based films. All right. Um, but anyway, this movie was a very, very good movie. Um, a super emotional movie, probably the most emotional movie I've ever seen in my life. And, that's crazy for it to be a comic book film. It was just a really, really sad movie. I mean, um, a very long movie, 3 hours. The pacing really wasn't that bad. It's just that there were a lot of the issues that I had with this movie is that it was a lot of things that I felt was forced in there for fan service, and they were just trying to connect anything that they can do. Um, Sometimes you just, I don't know. I don't want to sit here and tell them how to make a movie, all right? But I'll get to the issues I have with the movie. First off, Thor and the Hulk. Thor Ragnarok went through a lot. His hammer was broken. It took the whole movie for him to get back to being Thor. Goes into the Infinity War, getting defeated. Him and Hulk both defeated early. Most of the film was Thor again trying to get back to being himself. I think his moment in Infinity War was one of the best moments when he came to the battlefield with Rocket the Raccoon, and I think that whole scene was one of the best scenes of the whole film. Okay, him coming and finding Thanos, he wasn't able to stop the snap, but just his entry was so dope, so powerful. That moment was why that film was one of the greatest films like ever to me. And then for him to start off this movie, him and the Avengers going in, chopping off Thanos' head, uh, and then going to 5 years, and now he's just overly fat, depressed, or you know, it's just I just felt like this is Thor, this is the God of Thunder. Like, why? How does a god get to this stage where he's just this fat and nasty looking? How did they do that to Thor and keep him that way throughout the whole entire movie? I understand Thor could have been depressed, and I just wish there was another way to do it, because I couldn't get over it. Even at the end in the fight scene where he's fighting with Cap and he's fighting with Iron Man, and it was a good showdown between those three, and that I couldn't get over the fact that Thor was just a big fat blob, and they kept him that way throughout the whole movie. I don't know. That really bothered me. I just think that it's something that they didn't need to do, you know. And then you have the Hulk, who, again, we didn't get Hulk for a while. We haven't got any other Hulk solo Hulk movies in a while. He was in Ragnarok. He was pretty funny. His fight with Thor was great. And then in Infinity War, he gets destroyed by Thanos in the first opening scene. And then we didn't get him for the entire movie. It was just Bruce attempting to bring him out. And we see Bruce fight in a Hulkbuster suit. When it was promoted, Hulk being in the actual battlefield in the trailers, we didn't get him throughout the whole film, right? So we get this film, which I knew about Professor Hulk. I kind of got right away after the Infinity War movie came out. It made a lot of sense for them to bring Professor Hulk back because they would need someone that's really, really smart to try to fix all of this mess that's going on. And being that Bruce and Hulk was just not getting along, and Hulk, had his way. He didn't want to come out, and Bruce wanted him to come out. I kind of figured that they would need to work something out between the two of them and just be around 24/7, Whereas you get the Hulk, but you still have the full mind of Bruce Banner. I thought Professor Hulk's character was great, without a doubt. But I wanted to see him fight. A lot of fans wanted to see the rematch. I just wish he was part of that group that was fighting with Thanos at the end, against him. He was fighting, but we didn't really get him. Understand, he was injured from trying to, when he put on the Infinity Gauntlet and everything, and his arm wasn't, one of his arms was shriveled up. I get it, but I felt that they owed us more Hulk and Thor. Two of my favorite out of the team. They spent a lot of time with Hawkeye being Ronin now. I'm sure there are Hawkeye fans out there that really wanted that. This is just a personal thing with me. I don't have the same love for Hawkeye like I do for Thor and Hulk. But I thought they did more with Ronin. Hawkeye is Ronin in this film. I thought they did more with him in this film than they did with the other two. And I don't know. I just was kind of disappointed with that. And even with that Hawkeye Ronin thing, it's like they took his family, and then Black Widow just goes to like Japan somewhere where he's just out there slaying people. It's just like, did they really have to do that? That was an extra fan service type of thing. Like, oh, we're getting Ronin. Like I felt like certain things they just could have skipped out on. Now, as far as the pacing of the movie, it's the first hour is basically just showing what life is like now that Thanos has snapped his fingers and 50% of all life was removed, completely vanished. So I liked how they were showing how the world is working behind that, because I didn't want them to skip right into going to back to trying to undo what was already done. So I like that they did that. It brought more emotion into it. It made it feel more real. Like, these are the people and this is how they're really living. And, Ant-Man comes in, and they were showing him returning home and, all of that stuff. I thought that was really, really good. And it was necessary. I think when it comes to the time travel heist, though, that whole part of that film, I can really do without. I think the heist between with Captain America and he had Captain America and Tony Stark together, and they were in New York. You know, the fight in New York. I thought that scene was pretty cool. It was funny. It brought back some scenes from previous films. Uh, all of them did. All of the time travel heists brought back some scenes from previous films. But outside of that one, and maybe Nebula, you know, I think the Nebula scene was necessary. But outside of the Captain, I really didn't care. Like, I didn't really care for Thor's scene when he went back to revisit his mom. I thought that was like really forced to me. You know, it really didn't do anything for me, and I thought it was cheesy how Rocket just easily got. You know, they picked up the Infinity Stone from then. Um, they could have did without that. To me, I think Captain and Tony going back in time again, all of that. You know, to see his father and Captain. You know, seeing his first love again. You know, I think like certain those scenes was like, all right, let's go. Like, it was just dragging. That's the only point in the movie where I felt like this was dragged, and I'm like, all right, let's hurry up and get these stones so we can get back, because the adventures really just weren't doing it for me. You know, like I said, I think the Nebula and War Machine scene had to happen because they needed to make a way to connect Thanos from that timeline to what's going on at the current moment, like at this time. So I think that was very necessary, and I think that was a great way to know for him to know what's going on. Um, but yeah, dude, these are the things that I disliked about the movie. Okay, I wanted to get that out of the way because you know I think you know being that I think it was a good movie. These things kind of slowed it down for me. Like I wanted to get through. I'm watching it. I'm like, all right, let's get through this. And if I'm rating and grading a film, it's like taking points away. Like if I'm comparing it to Infinity War or some of these other films that I said that I loved. All right, so now what I did like about the film is first of all, Thanos. Um, we already knew he already showed his true self in Infinity War. We already knew what his plan was, so they didn't have to really go through all of that again. So in this film, what I liked about Thanos is that he was just so cold. Like in Infinity War, we got to understand of why he is the way he is. He's like a bad guy that you kind of understand how. Like I feel him. Like I understand why he wants to do. He's crazy, but I understand why he's crazy. I understand what he's trying to do. He actually believes that what he's doing is the right thing to do. You know? In this film, he was just stone cold, like trying to get shit done. You know? Once they got the Avengers location and they went into their timeline, he destroyed the whole Avengers headquarters like in an instant. He wasn't playing no games. And in that fight, he wasn't emotional at all with these people. You know, it was like in Infinity War, he was still hunting for the Infinity Stones. Whereas in this, they were all in one place and he was just trying to do what he was trying to do. Um, so I thought that was pretty cool. I thought that was pretty cool. I thought the fight was amazing at the end. It was amazing. Did I like it better than Infinity War in fight? I liked Infinity War a little bit. I liked it a little better because there were two battles going on at once, and it was a much longer battle. You know, and Infinity War had more action. They were fighting throughout and on and off throughout the whole film. So I can't really compare this film's battle scene to that one. I mean, it's debate was very subjective, so people might feel a different way. Um, but this fight was very very good. Uh, I didn't feel excited, overly like hyped until Captain America grabbed Thor's hammer and started beating the shit out of Thanos. I think that scene was one of the best scenes of the film. All right, that was the first scene out of the whole film where I like jumped out of my seat and was getting very very excited. Uh, I liked him. Uh, I liked when the other Avengers, when I believe who snapped, was it Hulk? All right, Hulk snapped, and then when the other Avengers arrived to the battlefield, and you saw Doctor Strange circle come in, and then you seen like a whole bunch of them come in, and that's when the crowd went crazy. Like that moment right there, man. I ain't never teared so much during a movie because it was like there was times where I teared because I was sad, even in the very beginning. But at the same time, there were times where I teared because I was so excited, and that was like, yo, Thanos had his whole army behind him, but when all of the Avengers came and Captain America said Avengers assembled, that whole scene was great, man. It was great. Captain Marvel came, did her thing. They did the whole, female feminist thing where all the females were together and they know how to listen. They know how to sell a film. The women love Marvel movies. They love the superhero movies now. They're seeing it just as much as we are. They want to see the film. So you gotta do it. You gotta sell it. You gotta sell it. And that was a dope scene. Uh, I never really was a fan of Captain Marvel, by the way. I saw the Captain Marvel film. I'm not a fan of the woman that's playing Captain Marvel. I like so many of the other female superheroes much better than him. The girl that's playing Captain Marvel, she just seems so empty and so bland. It's like when it's not an action fight scene, she just doesn't really fit to me. It's just me though. Anyway, it was pretty. There was so many moments in that huge fight that was great, and I'm trying to think. When Iron Man, Iron Man. I knew Iron Man was probably gonna die. Um, very very emotional scene, but you know it was coming. And there was a second there when after he snapped and the whole Thanos and his army vanished. There was a moment there where Tony was sitting there and he's like half burnt, and I was like, all right, is he gonna survive this? Because they set it up to make it look like he was gonna just like say a joke or something, and then he was gonna live, but he died, And I think that needed to happen to bring more like a dramatic closure of the film. That it needed something. If Tony just lived, somebody needed to die. I thought it was gonna be between him and Captain America. Um, Black Widow dying was hard. Uh, I knew that it was gonna be as soon as they got that assignment to go get the Soul Stone. I knew that one of them were gonna have to fight each other off in order to get that stone, and I felt like it was going to be Black Widow because it was just be more dramatic. You know, she doesn't have a family. She's kind of just with the team. That's all her family. And being that they're showing Hawkeye how he lost his family in the beginning and how he turned into Ronin, and they were giving him a lot of time. I figured that they weren't gonna kill him. They wasn't gonna kill him because he has a family to go back to. So I figured it would be Black Widow. Um, so when it happened, it's like just like when Gamora passed away, when she died, it was just they needed that to happen to make the film so dramatic. But overall, this is why I can't like it more than Infinity War because it's like a lot of things were just repeated, and it just became like I've seen this movie before because we've seen it in so many films, and this is the tricky part about time travel. And I actually wanted to make a video on Terminator Dark Fate that's coming out because Terminator 2 is my favorite movie of all time, period. It's still my favorite movie of all time. And I'm a huge Terminator fan, but if you notice that after Terminator 2, they've struggled to make a film with a story that made a lot of sense because when you start messing with time travel, there's a lot of inconsistencies there. There's a lot of things that doesn't really make sense when you're going back and trying to undo what was done. I do like the fact though that they went back in time and people of the current time are still in grief and they're still going through the loss of what happened 5 years prior. It's not like their mind was wiped out and no, just like they explained in the film, whatever happened, even if you go back in time and change it, whatever happens still becomes the past, you know? So I'm interested in seeing what the new phase of Marvel films are going to be like. I'm interested in knowing and seeing what the next Avengers big enemy, bad guy, who is it going to be? Is it going to be Galactus? Like, what is that? They're going to try to, I would like for them to redo the Silver Surfer thing, down the line. I think that would be pretty cool. But you have so much you can do with that. Like the range is infinite at this point. Who knows? Maybe they'll take over X-Men at some point and just bring the X-Men into it. Maybe they'll, who knows what they're gonna do? Maybe they'll bring back Fantastic Four. I have no idea what they're gonna do. But overall, it was a great film. Definitely a great closure. If they were to end all Marvel films for now and reboot everything, I think this was a great way to end the film. But it wasn't the greatest film at the same time. I think they did a good job, but there was a lot of holes in there, and there was a lot of things that I personally didn't prefer. I just thought they did Thor wrong. I think they did him really wrong, and I think they could have gave Hulk some more action. But I did like Hulk though. I thought he was funny. I think him being the way he was the funniest. Uh, you know. Um, yeah. So I'm trying to think. Is there anything else that I wanted to cover about this film? I think I pretty much got it all in. Captain America and his ending. I think that was a good way to end it. I mean, the guy finally lived his life. I mean, from looking back at the ending credits to uh, whatever film that was where he was running through New York City. They unfroze him and he was trying to adapt to the times of now, uh, modern times. I think he was owed a chance to live his life. So I liked how they gave that some closure. He was able to live some life. So he's gone. He's pretty much retired at this point. He didn't die, but he's retired. And Tony is gone. All right, so there's a lot more to be done. Um, there's still a lot of heroes. Black Widow did die. That's unfortunate because I really wanted to get a Black Widow film. She was definitely one of the best female superheroes on camera. All right, probably one of my personal favorites. I really like Wonder Woman too. I think she's great. Uh, I like Black Widow. Um, I would have to think of who else there is. There's all the girls that's in the that was part of this film. But as far as standalone movies, I think Black Widow could have gotten her own film. I don't know if they plan on doing one in the future. I didn't look at this. I haven't looked at the schedule in a while. But anyway, um, good film. Good film. I mean, I would rate it, if I had out of 5 stars, I would rate it a 4. You know, uh, not a 4.5, not a 5, but I think a solid 4 is good for me. You know, um, that's what I would rate it. But anyway, that's my review of the film. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Um, I do plan on one day doing a top 10 or top 20 comic book film review list video one day. And I do want to do a video talking about Terminator Dark Fate, because I'm really highly anticipated this movie coming out, being that Linda Hamilton is coming back, and they're removing all of the previous films that came out after Terminator 2. I'll do a video on that at that time. But anyway, I'm out. Peace.